So I went to one of these. One was really spectacular, but it was nerve-wracking because you didn't know what the objections were going to be, and you didn't know when they were going to call on you. So we're not doing that today, and that's why I gave you all the questions, and we're just going to go around the room. Just a reminder, there's no wrong answers. There's opinions, there's thoughts, and as Leslie was saying earlier, she's really good at building on conversations. And so I'm hoping we'll find that you'll hear different ways of different people handling things, and maybe that'll add to your arsenal, so to speak. So why don't we get started? I'm just going to start randomly. How about this one? My best friend is an agent. How would you handle that if you were with a seller and they said that? Anybody? Kai?
Why would you call me?
Sorry?
Why would you call me?
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Well, before being a real estate agent, I was trying to always aim to be working with friends, but it's always, I mean, the trend is not that it's the best option because sometimes it's hard to separate your friendship from the actual reality. The market may be in a hot spot or maybe in a really weak spot. And at the end of the day, it's not up to your friend or your person that you realize is a friend that's going to be the best option for you, because sometimes what you're expecting is not what the reality of the market can be.
Thank you. Jeff?
I would just ask them about their friend. To try and find out like how long they've been doing it for. I mean, I would say it's interesting. I come across this a lot. Does he or she work this area? Have been doing it for a long time, and then once you get sort of an idea, maybe give them an example. Would you go to see your doctor who wasn't doing it full time?
Yeah.
Right? They say, oh, he's just part time, or he just started out, and he's just. Maybe ask them, like if you're going to gamble like a big chunk of money working with this person who may or may not, I don't know this person, so I'm not trying to slag them, but may or may not have the experience that you need. And if they make a mistake, are they going to give you the money back? So, I didn't know. When you just maybe put a bit of doubt, or not even doubt so much, just explain what you're saying, because like Emerson said, it's not always the best thing just to hire a friend because they're a friend.
Yeah,
right?
great.
You're looking for an experienced person.
Cool.
And then you speak on your experience afterwards.
Right. Was there another hand that I saw go up?
Yeah,
Scott?
My experience has always been to acknowledge that and then uncover. Why is it that are you going to use your best friend? One of the first deals that I did in real estate, I was out door knocking, and the guy, his sister-in-law is an agent, and the guy owns more clothing store, turned out, right? And he told me he didn't use his sister-in-law because she wasn't into it. And then after he hired me, she really got into it. So I think it's uncovering what the motivation is, what the relationship is, and the level of professionalism. Some of them are seasoned realtors, and some of them are just starting out. So I think you need to know that, and then you can respond by acknowledging what they have to say about it, and then to Emerson's point, being close to family or friends, it could be a personal. You don't want them to make a mistake, and then it affects the relationship, or that they're not going to give you advice that you need to be. Sometimes you have to give like bad advice or good advice that's not good for them, and a relative might be too close to make that decision to give them good advice.
Thank you. Can I add one thing? I have a friend of mine who, when we first met and we got to know each other, he's a senior guy with RBC, and he's an investment advisor, and he's got a huge portfolio, and we start talking about it, and he says, by the way, he says, if we're going to be friends, he says, you got to know one thing, I'm not going to manage your money, and because I don't want to put money between a friendship. And so he said, I was trained that when I first started, is give free advice to your friends and family, but don't manage their money, because things can change in the marketplace. And now everything we've done to build a great friendship and relationship has gone down the tubes because the market adjusted. And it was interesting. And so we had that thing where he would send me updates all the time. He would put me on his list. I put him on his list, on our list. He sold with someone else, and I cursed him. And but it was kind of a fair relationship that way. So that I hope maybe that can add something to it.
So Alex, if you're selling your house, who's your friend?
Pardon me?
If you're selling your house, who's your friend?
Fizbo. Jeff.
The other thing too is, depending on where it's going, I sometimes offer, I'll say, we can always pay your nephew a referral fee.
Yeah.
So that you don't ruin the relationship.
Yeah.
We won't be able to do as much stuff in your house because then we have a service value proposition, but to avoid, that uncomfortableness, maybe we can just say, look, you're in Scarborough, the house is in Mississauga. The agent we're going to hire specializes in the area, and he's agreed to give you a referral fee.
And typically, I could hear the seller going, "No, he'll be okay."
Yeah.
As soon as you said, "Well, I can't," if I'm going to pay him a referral, I'm not going to do that.
Well, so
Yeah.
I got a listing last week in Levi Creek, and the son's an agent, and they called me, and I met him, and I'm sort of mentoring him on some other stuff, and he just said, well, I don't have enough experience to sell my parents' house, so we want to rely on you, which is kind of flattering, and and I've been helping with he's trying to sell his parents a condo, and some sign-in sales, all this bullshit and stuff, and so I've been sort of coaching him and having these three-way calls with his parents on the line. I'm like, yeah, fuck, that makes sense.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's full circle. It's they literally hired me, and he's actually an agent.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Brock, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I find when I first got started, I was hitting that a lot. Oh, we have a friend who's an agent, and everyone has a friend. There's way too many of us, right? But then I thought, why would somebody want to use their friend? And at first, my initial reaction was to push why I'm maybe better than a friend, or they're part-time, I'm full-time, and all these things. And then I thought, that's probably why they want to deal with their friend, because their friend's not pushing things on them. So as I'm talking and why I'm better, they're like, my friend doesn't do this. I'm just going to go with my friend, and it's easy and relaxed.
Yeah.
So I found if I just kind of laid back and didn't push myself on them, it was really received better. So that's what I try to do. Just same thing, ask questions and just kind of be relaxed and great. If you want to use your friend, that's awesome. But obviously I'm here for a reason today. If you want a second opinion, I'm going to work hard for you, and I'll be a great resource for you.
Fantastic. Everybody.
A lot of sellers feel obligated though to have a friend or a family member. They don't know how to get out of using them.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like their get out of jail free card if you can persuade them that it's best not to use their close friends.
Absolutely.
The question is, do you feel compelled to use them?
Yeah, exactly. If I have an uncle who's a realtor, I'm gonna always feel like I need to use my uncle, or he's just going to be upset. So.
And are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, I don't want to, but I have to.
Exactly.
The family member is making me do it, but I really don't want to.
I think a lot of people also, I do a lot of open houses, I think a lot of people say that, but they actually don't have a family member.
No, it's a defense
friend.
mechanism, yeah.
It is, it's I just, so much, but I like the way that someone had said it, acknowledge that they do have a friend that's a realtor, that's great, but sandwich it with, it can be a little complicated, and then what are you looking for in a realtor, and then using their answers to be able to, reassure them that you have those skills.
That's great. Everyone feeling a little bit more comfortable now? This is good. So here, I'm going to go really to a good one here. I've got appointments with other agents. So it's a seller who's listing their house or planning on listing their house. They're interviewing multiple agents. You're there, and you have a good rapport. Everything's good, but they put the brakes on. And they say, look, Pinder, sorry, but I have 3 more appointments. So, you're trying to get the seller to move forward. I have other appointments booked. How would you handle that objection? Sir?
I've been in that situation so many times, and I always try to put forward the friendship that we have, the trust that we have, the professionalism that we have proven to that person, particularly, and then kind of move back and say, "It's your option. Let me know," and then try not to push that, because at the end of the day, even my commission may be higher than the other persons. But I was trying to give, this is the value that I have. This this is a checklist of 100 people that you can talk to and ask, because probably you're gonna be in the same situation. You're gonna, check 3 or 4 more agents, the big names on, like the guys on the billboards and the bus stops and all those things. But you know me. You know why you choose me in the first place to come over, other than the other people. If you want to throw it to friendship or professionalism or the proven results, there's actually options.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it kind of goes into that direction.
Great. Tobin?
People always remember the last thing. So if there's a chance before you get there, and you can discover whether or not they are interviewing multiple agents, schedule to be the last. Just tell them, listen, I'll be last. You get through that, fantastic. Let me be the last guy in.
Okay. So let me be devil's advocate. If you get the first guy in or woman in, who says something like, you've called 4 or 5 people to come in. Obviously, we click, we hit it off. You've liked everything I had to say. If you list with me and just cancel all your appointments, then we're going to lose those people as supporting the listing. So why don't we give them each an individual call, tell them you've already made a decision of who you're going to work with. You're going to be the first to know when it comes out, how much the price is going to be, what the terms are, because we've already kind of, we've made an appointment with you and we feel some obligation, and get them on our side as opposed to taking a different approach like that. And then the last guy is bye-bye. So just, there's another side to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or having another touch point.
Yeah.
Even if you are the first or second and they're interviewing other agents, like we have a little booklet that we deliver, and it's just having that extra touch point.
Nice.
And extra quality as well. It's, we did talk about it, but here's, our little booklet, and did you have any follow-up questions? Like
Great.
making sure you are that last person.
Amy's always happy to tell the client that she's happy to call the agents and let them know
Yeah.
herself, because it's an uncomfortable conversation to have. She'll take care of that for you.
It's mighty nice of her, isn't it?
Yeah, so nice.
That is Chris Leader 101.
Probably.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Pinder, I see you snickering there.
Yeah, you mentioned Chris Leader earlier, you said FISBO, so I'm hearing this story from cold calling in my head, but I don't know if I'm the best example for this, because I'm a little bit too laid back when I have a competition at a listing appointment. I don't really try to close on my listing appointment. I don't actually go with paperwork. I don't ever sign on the first meeting. It's something I can tell the client, is like, listen, I'm not even looking to close today. I don't use those words, but just I didn't bring any paperwork, no decisions today. I'm more like Emerson in that sense, where it's just, I'm trying to connect and see if this makes sense. So not the best example in this one.
No, so I think it is a great example, because I think a lot of us in the room would approach it that way as well. More consultative selling as opposed to trying to push them into a corner to tie up a contract. I don't know that there's a right answer or wrong answer to be first or last.
If they mention they're seeing other agents, I always say that it's a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And then ask them what are they looking for in an agent, they'll tell you that you can just cater your entire listing appointment based on what they told you.
Right, absolutely.
And then to your point, I've often said, no, I'll call the agents. I actually know those agents.
Yeah.
Just say, hey,
When you get screwed, call me.
yeah, it happens. I mean, you're not going to get them all, but you just you do your best.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I always think setting the stage before you get there is so important. Like making sure they have your listing presentation in some form. I always do it electronically. I don't use paper anymore. And I found over the last 2 years I've really improved that, and it made a huge difference in my conversion rates.
Nice.
So when I get into a competition with 2 or 3 other realtors, unless they've done what I've done, they're in the test.
Yeah. You hand them a really sharp pre-list.
Yeah.
Nice.
Really good. Online, it shows what I do for marketing. It's a Canva presentation. It's got links to my some of my videos that I've done in the past, my feature sheets, my value proposition, and I weave that all through it, and it makes a huge difference when I get in front of a client. And if they haven't read it already, then they're maybe not into it anyway. So.
Right. Great, thank you.
I would echo that a little bit, also because I know that we've been in this situation, and I know that we've won listings and so forth because we're better prepared. And we have certain things that we find special about our actual home. It might be technical with regards to conservation of that agent. You know that you have an easement on your place. Something like this, something that maybe other agents won't come in. We didn't want it because they said other agents just weren't there.
Fantastic.
When I was car shopping, I went to a bunch of different dealerships, and there was one, I remember him so, when I sat down with him, we were talking, it was probably like a 5 to 10 minute conversation, and then I'm like, oh, just so you know, like I'm not making a decision today, I'm gonna go to other car lots to see if I can find a better deal or whatever. And as soon as I said that, he realized he was competing, and like, he went from like laid back in his chair to upright, and I could tell he was kind of on edge and trying to really close me. And that made me feel like, oh, this guy's just trying to be a salesperson to really get me in once he knew that like, I wasn't guaranteed business.
Yeah.
So I think of that a lot when I'm listing presentations. And same thing, I just kind of lay back and try to just be calm. And I say, great, we're happy to compete for your business.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, I like that, great.
The truth is you're interviewing each other,
Yes.
right? You have to feel that there's a click with the seller, and the seller has to feel that you're going to click with them. I don't think it's a one-way street.
In many ways, it's like a first date. You have to get to know each other
Yeah,
and get this connection.
yeah. That's great. Thank you. I have a tenant that might be a problem, and I'm not... Excellent. Everybody should have an answer to this. Or I have a tenant that might want to buy it. So how would we? Let's go with I have a problem tenant. He's leaving. He is the problem tenant. Fender.
So I've had some success with this. I don't know if there's a real explanation, but it's just taking it on. You know, the sellers usually kind of like, you know, they're button heads, and I think we tend to deal with people every day. We maybe have a better idea of how to do it, and I've had where clients been like, yeah, you know, this has been the back and forth, and I see their, you know, screenshot, I'm like, you were, you know, kind of short. You know, you're not wording it the way that we would have. And it's like, you know, let me take over. Can I contact them? And then we're just much softer. Like we had one where she had a disabled son. It was COVID. And was, you know, scared, don't want anybody in the house. So it was a completely different approach, and I showed up and just be human, right? And I was very soft about it. We'll protect you. What do you need? What are your concerns? We addressed it. We went about it really nicely, over the top of notice. You know, just making sure we reached out. It wasn't just a text message, make a call, follow up. Was that okay? Is everything all right? And you know what? And the seller called back and was like, thank you. The tenant's been like night and day. She's been great to deal with since you stepped in. Do we have to ever talk to her again? Can you handle everything? We did, right to the day of closing. We took care of it, sold the place, and you never know if that tenant might end up being a client.
Sure.
You know, they were very impressed with how we handled it. So I think it's just taking it on our shoulders, letting the seller know, like, listen, this is what we do. We communicate for a living. Maybe I can get through it a different way, and let us handle it.
Great answer. Thank you.
We've also, when we've had a listing that the seller's trying to sell, and they've had a tenant, we always say be supportive of the tenant, but also here's a real estate agent that you can work with to get you a new place. So you're really supporting them in their journey, so they're not feeling like they're backed into a corner. They're like, oh, okay, like I am getting help, I am getting support, and that's worked out really well for us.
Great approach.
I'd like to add something as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes when a landlord or a seller says that they have a problem tenant, it's pretty subjective. So sometimes I think it's important to inquire where the problem is, right? So a lot of times if people are jerks, it'll be fear or trauma based. So in the scope of the tenant, it's probably fear that they're probably paying under market value. They know they're going to have to leave. So I always found it helped to involve the tenant in the process and the discussion. So you ask them, are there stuff that makes them feel comfortable? Like, are there any days or times that you absolutely cannot show? Like, you can't have people through. I don't want to make this inconvenient for you. Unfortunately, there's some inconvenience where we do have to bring people through. But if you uncover their fear that they have to find a new place, you can have conversations about that. It's not always going to work, but if somebody's paying $1,000 a month below market value, which is very common now, you can have that conversation and you can say to them, are you hoping to stay, or are you hoping, like, are you fine leaving? Because if you're hoping to stay, I'm going to make that a part of my marketing, right? I'm going to make sure that I let buyers know that there's hopefully a good tenant that's willing to stay. However, that being said, if you're paying this amount and market value is $1,000 more, we're not going to be likely to attract an investor, right? They're not going to want to be underwater right from the beginning, knowing that they can't raise it. So occasionally you can have a conversation where they might love the home and they're willing to come up and rent and come up to market value, knowing that that might attract or help attract an investment, right? And if they absolutely can't or refuse to, at least they know that what's coming or what's likely to come, and then you steer that way there.
Jim?
I think to even obtain a listing that has a tenanted property, as agents, we need to show our value proposition on how we know the ins and outs of the landlord and tenant board. I know that we know it very well, so it doesn't scare me at all to take on these kinds of listings, but I think there's a lot of disinformation on the seller's behalf as to how that actually needs to go. And they're not aware of all the intricacies that are involved with tenants.
Absolutely.
And trying to sell a tenanted property. So if you can educate them, it's going to go a long way to getting the listing.
Yeah.
Because they feel more powerful, more educated, more understanding of the situation. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
I usually just ask the landlords if they have any connection to a biker gang.
Road bike or mountain bike?
Yeah, no, mountain bike. Yeah, no, it's just, there's trails in the area. Mike, edit.
This is a massive problem in our market right now. Because like you said, the market rents are so crazy. And then if they're going to be really good to you and they're successful for you, the way that they're like treated is that they're kicked out.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
You could also suggest to your vendor, maybe, one of us approach, if it's your client, would you be interested in doing keys for cash?
Yeah.
Right, because some people just take good money.
Yeah.
They're gonna go anyways, and the path of least resistance is to have them on your side.
Absolutely. The truth of the matter is the strategy of what Jason was just talking about, of telling a tenant that when it comes to market, no investor is going to buy it because it's way under. So are you considering moving up to market rent? Because the people who are going to look at it are going to want to occupy it themselves. And so the question is, the tenant can still say, yeah, I would like to go up to market rent if I could stay. The caveat to that is they have to decide within a year. So at the end of a year, they can say, I changed my mind. I want to go back to the basic rent. So it can get tricky there. But I think there's some other options for sure. Right.
I find too, usually by the time us as a listing agent is kind of introduced to the situation, the landlord and the tenant have been butting heads for so long. And then usually if we just have the same conversation, we just come kind of to the perspective of we're someone new, they don't know us. We just kind of calm down and have that conversation with them. I find it's usually more successful than you think it's going to be when the landlord's telling you about how bad the tenant is and what the relationship is like and all that stuff. Just being a new face, kind of having that new relationship with them, that's probably a lot better.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Just as a new guy, does that really come up while we go through, or landlord will take care of that, usually?
Yeah, no, it's we're involved for sure.
Okay. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's better.
You know what I mean? If you let the landlord.
I find that even with, when I'm dealing with people who are getting divorced, always, my husband's a bit of an ass, and just I'm gonna apologize, and I get along with him because he's not mad at me.
Yeah.
He's her. I like it. So I come back and say, how did the meeting go? Yeah, loves cars, I like cars, fantastic.
Yeah.
He's not. I'm trying to sell your house.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pick sides.
Yeah, for sure.
Very rarely do I see, even when people don't talk, where I don't get along. It's just my job is to sell a house. So find something common, and don't I guess obviously take someone's opinion on something. He's this and he's that, and just stay neutral. And then the same thing with tenants, right? They're probably mad at the landlord because the landlord and them they don't get along. So you're just going to try and say, hey, look, I mean, they want to sell the house, they have that right, maybe I can help you find a house. What do you want to still live in the same area? Do you want to stay? Obviously he wants to sell it.
Yeah.
An investor would buy it if you were paying fair market rent, because then you wouldn't have to move.
Great. Thanks, guys. Scott?
I had one last year where we had a tenant, and Mel helped me with that one. The tenant ended up buying it. So what I said to the owner, the seller, is you need to get it on the market, make sure that you're getting fair market value for it. If the tenant wants to buy it, then they can bring a realtor in and buy it. But get it on the market, make sure that you're getting market value and the best buyer. And it turned out that the tenant did buy it. So and it was smooth.
Does
and
happen.
The tenant was pretty cooperative too, because they wanted to buy it. So they
Right.
made sure that it was clean and showed well, and they cooperated all the way along. So.
Nice. Great. I'm going to move to one more on the seller side for now. And it's the question that gets asked every time is, will you do it for less? So whatever you've quoted as your rack rate of commission, when you say, look, everybody's getting it cheaper, et cetera, will you do it for less than what you've quoted me? Who wants to start? Ender.
I'd love to tackle this one only because it wasn't necessarily a strong suit. And enough meetings from Alex and Jason that have improved dramatically on the budgeting work.
Beatings.
And I'm healing too.
Mike, edit that, please, too.
I've been just very open. So I've had a couple recently where, they grilled me, well, so-and-so's willing to do it for, let's say 1%. When you're 2.5%, that's a big difference. And I found I just opened up and was like, look, I get it. There's a lot of options. I could probably find you somebody who'll do it for less. We usually have a chuckle on that, really, yeah. And look, it's up to you. There's no right or wrong. If I'm the right person for you, great. But look, well, they're giving me cash back or they're doing it for less. I don't have the margin. What do you mean? Well, again, there's no right or wrong. There's agents and then there's a business. So there could be somebody who's doing it part-time. They do 5-6 deals a year. They're paying, what, 20-25% tax? And what services are they providing? So on this side, I'm paying 54% tax. Why? Because we do a lot of business. Why do you want to work with me? Because I'm good at what I do. I'm on the ground all day, every day, and I'm going to do better for you. Now, you're getting a team. I've got an assistant. We're doing all the in-house staging for you. I've got storage. I got my movers. I'm going to store your stuff for you. We do photos, video, drone, print marketing. So I get into the whole thing. I'm in the presentation. I'm doing all this. So if I paid the same tax as that guy, and I didn't provide you any of these services, I'd have that 30% margin to knock it down. I'd be happy to give it to you. What I want you to know is I'm probably going to make the same as that guy at the end of it. I'm going to net the same amount. The difference is what kind of experience do you want? I tend to get better results because now you gave me a budget to do a better job and get you more money, and your process is going to be a lot smoother and much more professional. So neither's right or wrong. I'd be happy to give you that discount. I don't have that money. It doesn't stay with me. So which process sounds better to you? Which one do you like? And there's no issues. If that's better for you, go nuts. I get it. I'd love to save money too. But what is it that you're losing by saving that money? And if that's important to you, I'm your guy. If it's not, the other option's perfect. I can't even blame you for that. Right? And it's very laid back. Just here's what it is. This is my cost of running my business.
Great.
I just want to add something because unfortunately it happens. When people say, yeah, this is the guy and he's done all this, but you came in a nice, Porsche convertible. This is what it is. You go to it's simple. You go to your friend that is a mechanic that has a small shop and you pay, $60 for an oil change, it's fine. But if you go to the dealer and pay $200 for this, it's a reality. I think that at the end of the day, in those terms, it's hard to get the right or wrong answer. But,
One other thing I may add, I'll always point out now is, by the way, that's what I charge. It'd be very difficult for me to go back to the last 10 people and tell them that I charge you less than what I charge them. So it's not even about the money. And, let's say, and this can be a double-edged sword, that 0.5%, 1% is not a big deal. Not that it's not a lot of money. By the time I pay my split in tax and expenses on it, it's not gonna make or break me. I get it, it's a lot for you. I'm not being greedy about the money. Where's my integrity? How do I look myself in the mirror tonight? If somebody was to break into my office and go through my filing cabinet, I have to be able to explain why all of these were 5 and this one got 4, or this one got 3.5. What's my explanation? I won't stay in the business long if I was to treat people that way, so I have to be consistent in the way that I charge. And that's really hit home a lot of the time.
Thank you.
And you park your car down the street.
I like,
Scott, you can see the yellow Brembo brakes from about a kilometer away.
I like that you, so I think that there's this fallacy outside of consumers thinking that we're pocketing all this money too. So I like the fact that you acknowledge that you're using that money, and I use that in my pitch too, is that I'm taking your investment and reinvesting it into your property to make it like a quality product that's above and beyond. If you're using a discount person or brokerage, they don't have that money to elevate your product, right?
There's also a convenience, right? If you're paying someone less discount, those things that they're not doing, you're going to have to do yourself. You're going to have to find that storage unit. You're going to have to do those things. Whereas if you come with me, I'm going to take care of those services. So there's a convenience there.
They're selling one of the value.
Yeah.
It's a value added proposition, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell people, look, when you've got nothing good to offer, you give them money. Right? It's a race to zero.
It's true.
Right? If you can get someone for $500 to list your house,
Yeah.
they're not going to do a great job because they're not experienced enough. People that are selling all the property, they're charging full commission because they bring the value.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't be in their house.
True.
Right?
Oliver?
What Jeff was saying, it's exactly that. We're not commoditizing your value, we're selling your value. And I bet you can tell a story that you net more dollars for the client, like on the revenue side, whereas that person is offering a discount, I bet you cannot tell that story.
They don't have the experience.
They will get less than you if you show your, that sort of thing. And I think when you focus on your value, I think that.
Oliver, that's the key word, net. That's what I talk about. It's all about the net. Is your goal to save money on commission, or is your goal to net the most amount of money?
Exactly.
Which one are you looking to achieve?
If I can add something quick. The minute that person calls you, it's because they see something in you, regardless they have 3 or 4. And sometimes we go and see a client say, oh, I work with this guy, very famous. Oh, the guy never called me, he didn't pay attention to me. He was very, he just came over, signed the paper, then I didn't see him anymore. So nowadays, I think that the clients know exactly what they're looking for. It's sometimes it's not even commission. It's not even the car. It's just that people knows, and they're always gonna go back. Who referred you this guy? What was the main reason why you called him on the first place? Because you see something on them. You see the guy. Oh, I saw his social media. He's doing staging for himself. He's just taking a truck. He's doing garbage. Agents before, I don't know, 20 years ago, they didn't do anything. I mean, in terms of, it was a nice market, now it's a very competitive market, it's very aggressive. Even I'm old school like me, I gotta be all the time learning things, like, okay, I gotta do this. I mean, it's hard. But nowadays it's a really tough market. Now, I encourage all those young generations that come into the business, there is a lot of business there waiting for them. And take it, because believe me, this is a market that is changing. It's changing. And it's not the typical, this guy, because he's in the billboards and the bus. It's a business that people want to see what you're going to be doing for those guys. Why are you going to make it $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in commission doing the job? This is what you guys do to demonstrate that. This is what I do for you, and this is what I'm planning why you're going to be hiring. That's what I see.
Thanks, Sam.
I just had a real life example last night that I just remembered. So a client on the phone, we're talking, known her for a while, and she's finally ready. And she asked that question, can you help me out? My situation. And I won't be able to do anything. She's like, okay. And maybe 5 minutes later, she's like, by the way, I appreciate you not taking that the wrong way. And I would have worked with you anyways. I was like, oh my God, had I bent, right? She's telling me this after. She goes, if you had done it, would have been great, but I wasn't going to go work with somebody else just because of that, because I know I trust you, and right, it was all those things as to why she called me and why she wanted to work with me, And I remember thinking, I'm like, Had I bet 5 minutes ago, I'm like, okay, fine, you know, I'll knock it down. She literally ended up telling me after, she goes, I would have worked with you regardless, I just thought if I could save a couple bucks, it would have been great. But you're my guy, I won't go to anybody else, I tell all my friends about you. I'm like, damn. You know, the old Pinder might have been like, oh my gosh, you know, like, okay, fine, I'll do something, right? And I'm like, wow, that would have sucked.
The old Pinder would have offered the discount before you.
Before she
Oh, that was cold.
But then I can't help but hear Chris later. You mentioned Chris was, you know, if the agent isn't going to do a good job negotiating their own money, how good a job are they going to do with yours? Right?
You know, it's really funny. This happens to me all the time. Chris called me yesterday. Out of the blue, he's down in the States doing work for, I think, Coldwell Banker. He says, what's going on, this and that, and I told him what we were doing today. He's like, oh man, I wish I was in Ontario. He says, I would drive down from Barrie to be with you guys. He said, this is his favorite part, is objection handling. Are we good with that? Did anyone else have anything else to add on, will you do it for less?
Sometimes when people ask me, what do you charge? Yeah, right? I'm okay with some silence, so I won't even answer right away. I'll just like, that's interesting, and I'll just wait. Usually one of them, not always, will say, he charges 5%, they all charge 5%. I said, that's not true. Agents will do it for a lot less. All the good agents charge 5%, right? If that's what you want. I mean, you can get someone to do it for way less money, but I find that if you wait, if you allow the silence and you're not scared of it, like I'm okay with being quiet. Sometimes, you know, one of them will say to the other one, like,
I'll answer the question for you.
yes,
Amy says silence all the time.
silence, silence.
Yeah, she's like, just let them sit and get uncomfortable in their own uncomfortableness.
Absolutely.
I would find that hideous. I'm in a panic mode if nobody's talking.
So you
But
guys,
it is a strategy.
it is huge. You know Michael Day? Mike Day's a longtime lawyer. He's our company lawyer. And the first time I met him, Gloria's known him for years, and she introduced me to him like 25 years ago. And you're meeting him, and you ask him a question, and he's like, and you're like, is there something wrong with this guy? Like we came out of the meeting, she goes, no. She says, the way he is he runs down scenarios in his mind and then gives you the right answer. And she said he never acts quickly. And she says, and Gloria, you know, Gloria was a great salesperson and broker too. And she said, I'm comfortable waiting. I'll just sit there and look at them. and that's Mike Day. And I've been in front of Terrion in a heavy duty situation, and Mike went in there, and other people are chirping, and then they wait for him, and it's so uncomfortable, but silence works. Silence really works. Yeah. Someone always caves, not Michael. It's funny. Absolutely. That's great. So getting into a couple of things with buyers. I don't want to compete. Right? How many times have you heard that? Lots of times. How do you handle that objection? It's a spicy market.
I would say you're not going to buy a home. Because right now there's lots of competition. If not, there is. And depending on the price point, depending on the area, you're competing. You know, go into it with what you're willing to lose house for.
Yeah.
There's other ways of trying to, you know, because we're going to sell your house, we're going to try and generate the same thing if they're a seller buyer.
Sure.
You're starting to see offers now, houses with multiple offers. We sold one last night, 6 offers.
Mm-hmm.
And there are buyers who said that, you know, at the open house, yeah, we don't want to compete. You know, I said, you're not going to get this house, there's 50 full showings.
Yeah.
5 days.
Wow.
So I'm not saying put an offer, don't put an offer, have an agent, don't have an agent, but sometimes it's just not impossible.
Hammers.
If people always say, I don't want to compete, okay, you're looking for a house that the market price is $900,000. So don't send me those, oh, new listing came onto the market, $799. Honestly, that's not the price. So if you're clear that you're going to be around market price, obviously, if you say, oh, but it's going for $950, you know, you get out of there because this is not quite. If you're willing, or you have a big pocket to pay $50,000 because, oh, your grandmother lives there, your daycare is there, your job is here, and this is the property that the unique property, are you willing to pay that big bill? Perfect. If the big ticket is for you, if you have the power, do it. But then don't think that you're gonna be fine with that. You know, I'm gonna be competing with people that are gonna be 720, 740, 790, if the market price is 800,000. So if we set up, this is the market price today. Don't think that if you see that 799, obviously you're gonna be competing with all these guys that they don't know what they're doing, or they're trying to catch something that is not in the actual price. So if you tell me that if you go into $900,000 and then there are 10 offers on top of us, you don't get up there because this is not your property.
Yeah. Scott?
I would acknowledge that there is a lot of buyer fatigue, and a lot of buyers don't want to compete. The key to being successful in this market is to be educated, know what properties you're going to sell for, know what they're going to list for, what they're going to sell for, and be educated enough so that when you put an offer in, you know whether you got a shot at it. Just come in with your best offer.
Great. Oliver?
I was going to say, they say you don't want to compete. So, I mean, the house that you're looking at has got 6 offers. That means it's a desirable house. It's desirable, right? So, like if you want to buy a house that has no offers, maybe it's less desirable. When you eventually want to sell it years from now, you do not want to be in that position as a seller where you have many people who desire your house. That is why that house has 6 offers, because it's desirable. And I kind of think that.
I try to coach the other agent on my own. Hey, what's the vendor's expectation? And I'll say, well, you're my vendor. What would you like? The most amount of money you can get. But when they're going to put in an offering, they're asking you about strategy, or you guys do another sign back or whatever, and I'll say, well, maybe if they're close. But when I'm working with a buyer, I'm working with your buyer, I would say, go with what you're willing to lose it for. Because if you can separate yourself from the other offers, and the gap is decent, if I'm the listing agent, I'll tell my vendors, look, I mean, they're $70,000 more than the second place offer. If we send them all back and one of them leaves, I have to get the guy in second place back to where he is. If they're all close, so what I'm trying to say to the other agent is, come in with an offer that separates you from everybody else, because if you don't, you're just giving them a second chance to beat you. Even with my buyers, they'll say, well, I paid $1.5 million, but I think I'm going to go with $1.4 million. Okay, but so now, if we do that and somebody else is doing that, and you're willing to pay $1.5 million, and they come back at $1.530 million, you're not getting a house. Because you gave everybody one more chance to beat you.
Great.
And I try to offer that advice to other agents. And they're like, yeah, that's a good idea. And they'll come, like the guy last night, he came with the best offer. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thanks for helping me today. I said, no, this is well.
A great question to dovetail to that is, what won't you pay? And it's a really good question, because that, when you add that, what you won't pay, then everything else becomes really clear, right? That's neat. Brock?
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I find usually it's not that the buyer doesn't want to compete, it's that they don't want to overpay. And you can be successful, compete, and not overpay.
Yes.
If you just know what the house is actually worth. And then oftentimes, let's say the house is listed for $899, it's worth $960. We have an offer in at $950. We go to $960. We're right at the top, and just another $5,000 or $10,000 is going to take it. Oftentimes they're like, I know I'm overpaying by 10, but that's fine. Let's take it. So even if the things are kind of getting a little bit heated and crazy, they're just worried about not overpaying.
I like that point, because I think when we talk to our buyers about being in competition and explaining to them, if we're at market, there is probably a good chance that there's a lot of those that aren't at market because they don't know the value of it. So you're competing against some of those who aren't even competition to you. So don't be scared of it. Just know where your point is, where market is, and where you feel comfortable with.
You can also explain to buyers that it also, the biggest thing is how quickly do you pay off the mortgage? Right? Because if you buy a house and you have a $500,000 mortgage and it takes you 20 years to pay it off, paying $40,000 today more than market value, you're going to pay like $180,000 in interest. So if you get a little bonus and you're good little savers and you chip away at the principal, I mean, within reason, it's relative.
Sure.
Like you're selling it 15 years from now, you bought it for $1,020,000 or $1,065,000, it makes no difference really, other than can you afford it? Like,
right.
So if you can afford it and you can pay off your mortgage as fast as you can, I think when you sort of explain it to them in that light, it's a bit easier for them to make a decision.
So I got 3 scenarios. One is Amy's got the secret homes. I call it a silent market. So you can, we're all talking, maybe these all houses just not even on the market yet, right? So you're not going to compete because no one knows. You also got the whole budget thing, so you're really only competing against yourself. You have absolutely no idea what sellers' motives are. So when you put your offer in, you may be just beating everybody else anyway because your offer has some condition, or doesn't have a condition. Whatever it might be, maybe your letter hits their heartstrings, I don't know, right? So you don't know what the other end is going to be. The other one is, and this is brand new to us, is there's open bidding. The seller can decide to be open bidding. Now, guess what, guys? The buyer can dictate the open bidding, potentially. The guy calls you up, says, I want you to improve. I will not improve unless the seller opens up the bidding.
Some sellers would say buy, depending on how many offers there are.
Maybe, but if you really want me, because I'm wherever my offer is, and you don't know, but you can sort of maybe force the situation.
Sure.
It's not a guarantee.
Has anybody experienced open bidding yet?
No, not yet.
Sure.
None?
Just one.
Oh, yeah? And how did it go?
Were you on the buyer or the seller?
On the buying side,
Yeah.
On the buying side?
it was interesting. It was a third party that was handling it actually. It was just going online on this portal.
Oh.
It was pretty interesting. I didn't have too much experience in it because we just came in one shot.
Mhm.
That was our offer. We didn't get it, so I didn't really get to see a back and
Oh.
forth and how it worked out. But that's the closest I've come to.
What did they share? Did they share all the content, just the price, like?
It was just the price.
Just the price?
And did that go, like, was that more successful, you think, for the seller, or you think they would have gotten more if they didn't go through that process?
I think they got what they would have got. I don't think it really made a big difference.
Yeah.
It was on Zinnia Place or Mississauga, and yeah, I think it sold for what it should have. I knew our offer wasn't at that time in the market. I think we were about 30,000 short, but that was the max we could afford, and it went for about the price that I thought it was. So I don't think it was a pro or a con. I think
Just a strategy?
yeah, it was a preference, for the seller, the listing agent, or combination. But sure.
Just as an aside, we've been looking at a couple of platforms so that when you do get into a situation and you want to run an open offer situation, trying to navigate it by yourself without some good software is going to be really difficult. So we've seen a couple of them. We're going to put it out to some of you to take a look as well. There's one that seems to be the slickest one. And so that'll make it a lot easier to handle. And
What are your thoughts on that? If you were representing a seller, do you think it's a positive to have open bidding or a negative?
I think
You've seen the technology, what do you think?
my answer is it depends.
Yeah.
So there's still, for me, there's still a lot of benefit to the seller when it's the right property. If it's a property that's really in demand, I think they lose the high bidder. If it's an open situation. I think the high bidder is a little bit less aggressive. And, and that's really what the consumers were complaining about is I was the high bidder, but how much, I bid so much over. And then they complain about it afterwards. I'm not sure that that's fair game, but the registrar and RICO feels that it is and that we should promote that and be open to that.
Can you change your tactics mid-game?
Yeah.
You can.
As long as you notify everybody, yeah. And so this is where it gets tricky. With Broker Bay, we're able to do notifications of everyone who's shown the property, of everyone who has a registered offer. But if you have 6 or 7 offers, now you have to communicate clearly to everyone that we're now going to open the offer process, but we're only sharing, you can limit what you share. You can say we're only sharing the closing date. We're only sharing the fact that there's no conditions or what conditions these offers have, or we're just going to do price, or we're going to open everything up. It's gray, and that's why we're looking at using a tool that'll help us manage that, because that could be really tricky, mostly tricky with compliance and who told who, what, and when. So we're hoping to solve that really soon.
Could be part of your listing presentation when you're talking about multiple offers and who you're hiring.
Absolutely.
Great negotiator.
It's part of the RICO guideline.
No, I mean, I'm not talking about open bidding, I'm not saying don't do open bidding. I'm
Yeah.
saying when I go for a listing presentation or unlisting presentation, I speak to my skill set. So, I mean, when you get 4 or 5 offers, 6 offers, if you're good at it, assuming everybody's good at it, you can, not manipulate, but you can sort of craft it,
Yeah,
right? I mean, that's what they're paying you for, not paying you for
Absolutely.
time and, like MLS, they're paying for all the other things.
yeah.
And I think I just mentioned it in listing presentations.
You know, Brock, to your question, I think if I had to say on average, the seller will come out with less, is my guess.
That's what I would do. You could see if you had 5 offers all in that top market, they're all closed, it'd be like, hey, we're gonna open this up and go on a run.
Yeah,
If you have one clear winner, it wouldn't be in your best interest to open it.
I agree.
Did they,
I
when you
agree.
did that tender, did they disclose who had the outlet? Could you see who the offers were from?
I didn't see the name, I think it mentioned the company.
Oh,
It wasn't the actual name.
I'm just thinking of people with less integrity, having someone run it up,
Yeah.
right? Like how easy would that be?
You're not allowed.
You can't identify, the buyer's name.
No,
Can't give
no,
out the buyer's name.
the agent.
Oh, the agent.
I didn't show the agent name of the company.
You can't identify the agent?
No.
I don't know if you can't, it wasn't in that platform that I witnessed, it was just the company name. I don't
So
know
it's
if
just
it
a
was
company?
not allowed, but
Yeah.
that's what they showed.
Oh.
One quick analogy if I may. I always use the casino for my buyers when they're talking about competing. I'm like,
Yes.
Right? Before you go to
Poker.
the casino, we're gonna decide
Yeah.
how much you're willing to spend. You're not bringing your wallet. We're not gonna go to the ATM.
Yeah.
Let's figure out right now what your max is. And then if you get caught up in the emotion, I'm gonna be the bad guy and remind you, I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
going up. You told me earlier today or yesterday, whenever we prepped, 1.1 was your max, and now you're caught up in wanting to do 1.13. I don't feel comfortable. You remember that conversation. So I will guide you through that and be that calm voice to bring you back. Let's decide that right now. Leave your wallet at home. We'll go spend what we're willing to spend. If we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. And we go back home and there's no loss, right? And on that too is, pick the price that you're happy. If you get the house, you don't feel ripped off the next morning. If you don't get the house, you don't mind because you feel that buyer was an idiot and got ripped off. That's the price. It doesn't matter if there's 10 offers or 2 offers or 100. What's your number? Leave your wallet at home. We'll give it our best. If it works, it works. And I'm kind of corny. If it's meant to be, it is. If not, maybe it's a bad luck house. Maybe it'll burn down. Maybe, it's bad karma. It's better you don't have that house and let's go buy something else. You have nothing to lose by competing as long as you go in responsibly.
Yeah. You
I'm
remind.
going to add to Pinder for a second here, because he touched on emotion. So I used to let people know that you do your best to keep emotion out of it. If you're not good at that, I'm emotionally deficient, so I'll keep you in check. But competition isn't just about pricing,
Yes.
right? So, and there's always competition, except sometimes sellers are competing for you, and sometimes you're competing for the seller. But the real thing about competition is also when you do your due diligence. So under normal conditions, you have 5 days for inspection, 5 days for financing, a couple weeks for status certificate if it's a condo. So in competition, we're just doing our due diligence at a different time, right? So we're going to try and do some stuff ahead of time because there's a cost to having those conditions. I think a lot of us have been in situations where the seller did not take the highest offer because they took the firmest offer. I know when I sold my parents' house, there was almost a $20,000 difference between the first offer and the second offer, but we just didn't get a good feeling from the first offer, and they had like 3 conditions, and the second one was firm. So, the cost of those conditions, even $20,000 wasn't enough. So if you can satisfy some of those conditions by doing your homework before you submit the offer, then you might be able to get it at a little bit lower price. And you should never feel bad about finding the right house, right? If you find the right house in a market when there's 10 other people that want it, you shouldn't feel guilty about that. Let's just do our best to get it under the right circumstances.
So further to that, the last question to ask sometimes is, if you woke up tomorrow morning and you found out it sold for X, would you be unhappy about that, and would you have paid that? And that's what that should be your top dollar.
And you don't want to be that person, right? Because if you wake up and I say it sold for this much money, you say, oh, I would have paid that.
Yeah.
You got to pay it tonight.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow's not,
And part of that's trust. them trusting us
Absolutely.
that we're not going to give that away at the table. But we know where you're willing to go.
And if you're working with a buyer on a listing that doesn't have multiple offers, I sometimes just add conditions that we don't need and sell them to the vendor. Just take them back out.
Yeah.
You know, long closing, small deposit, financing, home inspection, whatever. And the client doesn't need any of those things.
Yeah.
And then you try and just go backwards and say, okay, maybe a couple of sign backs. You give them where we want to be, remove the conditions, increase the deposit, and give them like 3 hours to decide.
Yeah.
This guy
Beauty.
playing chess.
And cards.
No, it works sometimes. Not always, but
So let me change gears now. So we're with the seller and we're talking about the market and talking about selling. And the seller says the market's really busy and there's no inventory. We know that. So the good side is that there's no inventory in a way, so we're going to sell. But if we sold our home now, where would we go? Why would we ever sell now and risk being homeless? It just doesn't seem like the right time. So there's a seller that goes, that's great, I'm going to sell for here, but where am I going to go? How would you answer that? What are some solutions?
Christina on our team had a really good, and I don't have her eloquent words, but she always analyzes the risk of the seller, and she'll give them an array of choices, and she'll say, out of this many houses in your budget that's on the market right now, how many of them would be suitable? And if it's one, and they're very specific, then you need to buy first. If they're very kind of, they have 5 of them would do, then they're like, okay, well, sell first because you're gonna find a home. Like, you're very flexible in what you want. So it's asking the seller what their risk factor is, whether they want something specific or they're open to many choices.
So if they want a 1-bedroom home on a ravine with a river at the bottom of the ravine,
Yeah,
they've got to find it first, right?
yeah, they gotta find that first.
So great solution. What's another solution?
long closing day.
Long closing, giving them time. What's another solution? How about negotiating the right to rent back the seller? Is that possible? Depends. You know, I don't know.
I mean, I think that's not really problem.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've pulled it off twice, and it worked. You know, it can be a bit messy, and there's some fears and worries in that period of time
100%.
between the rental and
100%.
So then they become a tenant.
Yeah.
As soon
Yeah.
as they pay, they're a tenant, and they're protected under the
Yeah.
landlord and tenant board. So that's great that they used to be the seller, now they're your tenant, and if they know the rights and,
Yeah, there's an interim occupancy agreement
Yeah.
that we would draft.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and a per diem rate and that sort of stuff.
wild was I did it for the same client. So we did it the one time and it worked. I was like, wow, that was 1 in a million. And then we're selling their house and they had a pre-con again, and they were like, well, baby, can't you just do what you did last time? We're like,
No!
we did.
That's bizarre.
I did it for the same person. I was like, this is wild.
So what other solutions are there if someone's timid about getting on the market? Long
Ask
closing?
them if they got someplace to go. Like, you have someplace to go. I mean,
Yeah.
some people will say, I can go to my parents' house or brother's house or a cottage or something,
Yeah.
just to find a solution.
Do you think the chance of getting a top dollar will outweigh their fear of not having somewhere to go? What do you think in general? Or depends? Yeah.
I mean, I always, when people say, I would like, end of June, I would like, end of May, what do you think is possible? I say, yeah, it's possible, but if you want to get $1 for your house and someone gives you $1.30, but they want it April the 20th, would you take it? And they're like, probably, I mean, everything's a function of money.
Yeah.
Right, if it's enough money, you're like, screw it, I'll go to get an Airbnb, I'll go on a
Yeah.
holiday. I don't have any kids, my kids are older, or whatever.
Sure.
I think money's always the.
Brock?
Sometimes it's just an indication that they're actually not that motivated.
Mm.
A motivated seller knows where they're gonna go. If they're sitting there like, I would sell, but where would I go? Maybe they're just not that motivated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe that's just an excuse. That's a limiting belief, maybe.
I don't know.
That was a good no.
I don't know.
There are those that think that they're just testing you. Sometimes listening to what maybe they want to sign exclusive and we don't hit the market yet and we go find them something first.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes them more comfortable if they know that the market is hot. Sometimes I feel like if I'm pushing for the salesy answer, it just doesn't come across. I don't know if I'm just not good at it, or it just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And then I find it's not received well. Instead of just
Yeah,
actually
and
listening.
you give off the wrong vibration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be a reason to why they're moving.
Sure.
It always comes back down to that. It doesn't matter if the market's booming, what's the plan? You have zero plan. There's no point.
Right.
Then we'll talk soon. We'll pay attention to what's happening on the market, and if things are really starting to change, that might influence them to make a faster decision. But we're just sitting ducks right now. We're just waiting.
Yeah.
No one buys or sells unless they're ready. Everything
And there's
else just
anxiety
seems to
both
be-
ways,
Sure.
right? Like, listen, look, so if you buy before you sell, you found a house, but do you know what you're gonna sell your house for, right? Because I was asked, what are you comfortable with? Oh, I want to sell first. Okay, great. I want to buy first. Okay, great. Because both of them have anxiety.
Right.
Sold for a ton of money, can't find a house. Bought a cool house, I can't get what I want for it, potentially.
You know, how many people in the marketplace bought last spring and figured they were going to ride the upward market and list in the fall or any of that? Lots of people got stuck there. Lots. And it's true. It's hard to time. It's almost impossible to time the market because you don't know what's going to happen.
Once you know, it's too late.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting.
Once, like, the media said, oh, Richard, it's too late.
Yeah.
You have to buy months
Yeah.
before that.
I agree. Next one. We love the home. And we're just going to do 2 or 3 more. This is everyone getting good value out of this? We love the home, but we really want a deal. It's only been on the market for a short time, but we want to offer less. So let's call it $25,000 less and see what happens. How would you counsel that buyer?
No multiple offers, no offer yet? Why not try
Yeah.
it? You know,
Okay.
make a friend, it's a 5%.
Put everything on. It's start of a conversation maybe.
Great.
That's your favorite line.
I know.
Let's start a
Let's start.
conversation.
I'm like, it's not friggin' happening. Let's start a conversation. Let's see where that goes.
Yeah.
It
Is-
might be a no, it could be blah, well.
Is there any risk to doing that if you're not in multiples?
You can offend the seller and they just don't want to work with you.
That
but
happens.
Okay, that could happen.
It doesn't sound like 2,500 would be offensive, but.
Yeah,
That's
1,000.
not obviously what the market value is.
Yeah, of course,
the
of
house.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I try to focus on, is what's the actual value?
Yeah.
yeah.
And I've had it happen before where the buyer will say to me, oh, this house has been on the market for however many days, I want to offer 25,000 less. And then I'm like, actually, it's been on the market for this long, it might be listed at $899, I think the value is actually $750, and we're going to go at $775, let's go at $740 and see what we get it for.
Yeah,
Like in terms of us adding value to our clients, if we know the value, that's huge.
yeah.
And that's going to be a client for life. If they said, Brock actually told us to go lower,
Yeah.
and then we came in and we were successful. If that's the listing strategy and that's the value.
Okay. One more, 2 more. We appreciate everything you've done for us, but honestly, we've only been on for a week. This is the seller, and we only have one offer. And this is the scenario where people are expecting multiples. I guess that's okay, but we want to think about it. How about we just wait another week or 2 and see if any other offers come about? I think that's a better decision than just accepting this one right away. How would you counsel that seller?
It depends how many showings you had.
Uh-huh.
If you had 20 showings and 1 offer,
Yeah.
it tells you something.
Right.
And you have to start a conversation with your client.
Right. Everyone's going to walk away with, let's start a conversation.
Well, but instead of putting the onus on you, it's like the market is telling us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not, this is what my words or this is, the market is telling us. And
So if there were no showings except for a few and you had one offer,
Yeah.
the market's telling us that it's not appealing to the mass.
Yeah.
If you had 50 showings and one offer,
Yeah.
it would likely tell us that it's still not appealing to the mass, either by price or condition or whatever it is.
I still think as realtors, like that's probably one of the number 1 things that we need to be skilled at is knowing what it's worth. And counseling before we get, when we get the listing, here's where I think it's going to sell for. We can talk about the listing strategy. We'll navigate things as we go. We see how showings go, how offers go. But you got to be honest with them right at the very beginning of what it's worth, right? And I always fall back on that. I go, okay, and I'm really clear with people, right? Maybe too clear sometimes, right? But I just say to them, hey, we talked about this. I told you it was going to be 1.2. I showed you all the comparables. You know, again, and just as a realtor, that's a skill that I take a lot of, put a lot of attention on. It's like knowing the market. And that's why I don't work in other markets. I always refer out so that I can show them. I can say, listen, I was in every one of those houses. This is what it's going to sell for. If you think it's going to sell for 1.4, well, maybe we'll take a shot at it. But and I always go back to that. I say, listen, 1.2. I told you that before.
Yeah.
You know, and that always works for me.
I've
And I go, okay, yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
I've had clients, and this is talking about like when offers don't get accepted. I have clients that are great clients, they have a great budget, and we've offered on 2 different homes and lost out. But on both homes, I was dead on with my pricing, and they were under. So now, going forward, they have confidence in my pricing, even though we didn't win those houses, it didn't matter, because now they have confidence. And when I can say, this is what it went for, they're like, you were right there. And I was like, yeah, I was.
Makes
But
it easier on the third one.
it does make it, because now they've built trust. Even though they didn't get those 2 houses,
Right.
they have confidence in me now going forward.
I tell agents that on our listings.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to waste my time. You can do it by DocuSign.
Yeah.
Doc, you're in your pajamas.
Yeah.
Send the offer. Like, so what happens if it sells for around that price?
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting it's going to. And you know, your clients are going to go like, you said don't waste our time, so we didn't put the offer in.
Right.
Put the offer in, because 2 things are going to happen. You're going to get it, you're not going to get it, but it's going to be beneficial to you on the next offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I did, you know, I mean,
And you're showing,
you can drive and sit out front of someone's house
Yeah.
for 2 hours and have to like go to the bathroom and you're there and you're waiting all night.
you find out you're at the wrong house.
I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
I would, you know, I would always say,
Yeah. Because that's who you're working for.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you don't get it,
Yes.
you've tried,
Yeah.
and we'll move to the next one.
And then now they're going to say, I should have taken your advice, you're right. You know what? I said, okay, let somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next one, it's like the law of reciprocation, basically.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're offering them advice,
Yeah.
or you tell them, don't order that lobster, it's not good, you're a waiter. And then they're like, okay, great, that's nice, and now they're getting paid on a tip. But when you come back to your table, they're like, what wine would you recommend? Well, then you recommend the one that's a bit more expensive. Now they have to take it because you save them on a lobster. It's the same thing with that.
Oh, I
Absolutely.
hope they pick one that's more expensive.
Well, they usually ask you, right? They wouldn't just say, oh, we don't want that, thanks for like saving
Yeah.
us. And that
Yeah.
is the same with the offers.
Yeah.
I always tell people to send it.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that everyone has kind of said today was not only know your client, but know your craft, like know what it's worth, figure that out. If you don't know any more than they do, how do you advise them? And it's a theme that went through the room today, which was really, really cool.
Hey, you can get lucky also too, right?
Sure.
There's an outlier. Sometimes you get lucky, we listed at a decent price and you get 5 or 6 offers and someone's lost 5 houses and they're willing to pay a bit more money because they just don't want to do this shit no more.
Yeah.
And so you can get lucky. But
Yeah.
the only way you're going to get that is if you get the right listing price, because if you're taking away your ability to negotiate and manipulate the offers without having a good enough price to get them. You can't drive one offer up by itself.
Right.
So, I mean, that's also part of your listing presentation,
Absolutely.
I think.
Just touching on knowing the price, the client I was talking to last night, they're sending me a bunch of listings. Can we see this? Can you add this on? And, just knowing, I looked at the price and it's not going to sell for them. And I hit her up, I'm like, this one, she was like, what about this one? I'm like, that's going to go for $750. And this is $200 more maintenance fee than the other one that we determined last night is above your budget. Oh, okay. What about this one? That's going to go for $835. That complex is listed anywhere from $835 to $1.1. Oh, why did they say $699? Because you know what they're doing. Oh, so otherwise I could have been out now doing, showing in Milton and 2 in Mississauga for houses she can't afford and miss this wonderful session. And instead I get to be here.
Yeah. Cool.
We appreciate your company.
Late nonetheless.
You can refer us, Pinder. We'll do the Milton showing for you. Let's leave it to Flyers Team Real Estate.
It's 93 in too, so.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. 94.
Sorry.
You got to burn more gas just to get to the 94. That's funny. Guys, thank you very much today. This was really, really, really good. Everyone seemed really comfortable. except for our friend. Can you introduce yourself to the room?
Yes, Shazad Khan, just in the process of joining right now.
Welcome, Shazad.
Yeah, welcome so much.
I just processed your RICO application.
Yeah.
And so the stuff we covered today might have taken you 3 years to figure out.
I know, you know what, it's amazing to have this knowledge from like so many experienced guys here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. This will help a lot.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank
Welcome.
you so much.
Guys, thank you. And we're going to, hopefully the recording, we didn't pass a mic around. Hopefully we picked up as much as we can. And we'll try and put a transcript together for everybody.
I'm the only one that swore.
Pardon me?
I'm the only one that swore.
Fuck yeah, it's normal. Did you see the post?
Yes, that was.
Oh my God, that was so funny. That was so funny. Yeah.
The one you did about the F-bombs and the...
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was funny.
That was hilarious. Great, guys. So more of this type of thing works? Okay.
This is a great format.
Yeah, okay, good. Love it.
This is how we do our...
Great. Have a great